closer. I want to talk to you. I'm going to tell you an astounding story. The story of the Maltese Falcon. 600 years the falcon has carried the mystery of a fabulous wealth under its grotesque wings. I could tell you 1,000 tales of the men and women who have hunted this evil bird. But every story has the same ending. Murder.
Well, this story isn't about murder, but it is about the passionate pursuit of the legendary Maltese Falcon. The movie prop, that is. The Maltese Falcon is one of the great detective movies of all time. Taken from Dashiell Hammett's classic novel, it was John Huston's directorial debut, and Humphrey Bogart's portrayal of Gumshoe Sam Spade created a screen legend. In the movie, everyone is looking for a statue of a golden falcon encrusted with jewels. It turns out to be a fake made of lead. The falcon prop disappeared from Warner Brothers after the movie was made. As could only happen in Hollywood, it replaced the fabled bird as a much sought-after treasure. And just like the movie, many have tried to pass off fake falcons as the real thing. Until Dr. Gary Milin, that is. His authentic black bird, as it's affectionately known, is on loan to a museum back at its birthplace, Warner Brothers Studio in Burbank, California. Dr. Milin's movie treasures from his other favorite film, Casablanca, can also be seen at the museum, including Ingrid Bergman's passport and the piano from Rick's Cafe. In fact, it was his sale of the piano from the Paris flashback scene that led him to the legendary bird.
The Maltese Falcon was a serendipitous find, a wonderful treasure that when I purchased it I wasn't even positive was the Maltese Falcon. For years I'd collected, since I was 8, all kinds of things, Revolutionary War articles, manuscripts, documents, movie memorabilia, and my mother thought I was a little crazy. I was fortunate enough to get the piano and sort of became famous or infamous for being a Casablanca collector. Someone called me and said, "I have the Maltese Falcon, would you like it?" My response was, "Let's see, I've seen 250 bad Maltese Falcons. Why do you think you have it?" He said, "Well, I think it's right. It's lead and it's very heavy." So I went to see it, and there lying in a box was the Maltese Falcon.
Instinct told him to buy it, but how could he be sure it was the real McCoy? Dr. Milin enlisted the aid of rare document dealer and movie memorabilia expert Charles Sachs.
The process, of course, of authenticating it was a matter of going through the literature at Warner Brothers, going through the archive, and finding the inter-office communications that might mention the making of the bird itself or the creation of the prop. And we found a few things that gave us a trail to follow.
One way to verify Dr. Milin's falcon was by its weight, almost 50 pounds.
Huston was a stickler for accuracy, and he called for a lead bird of significant weight, just as Dashiell Hammett describes the bird in the novel, as being very heavy. You can see Bogart actually grimace and start down the stairs very gingerly and sort of tuck the bird to his chest and lean back slightly, and you know that he's carrying something very heavy. One of the office communications said was that during one of the rehearsals, the falcon, which weighs 47 pounds because it's made of lead, was dropped and almost broke Humphrey Bogart's toe.
We took photographs off of the actual film, and there's a bent tail feather on one side of the bird that compares exactly, along with other little notches, to the photographs, and we knew that we had the real Maltese Falcon, the one seen on the film. We even know that one of the prop men that was involved has been interviewed by the Warner Brothers Museum, and they said there were 2 of the Maltese Falcons. They used to use them as lead weights, like barbells, when they were doing the film. So we know there's only 2 authentic Maltese Falcons.
2 falcons? For years, Dr. Milin's falcon was the only one known to exist. Then a second Falcon surfaced to be auctioned off at Christie's in New York City.
One day here at Christie's, I received a phone call from Mrs. William Conrad, the widow of the actor William Conrad. And she said that she had had some things of her husband's which she might like us to look at and appraise and perhaps sell, scripts, some photographs, letters, etc. And almost as an afterthought, she said to me, "Oh, and we have this lead bird which has been sitting on the shelf in the television room for the last, 30 years, etc. Maybe you could take a look at that for me." And I knew that Mr. Conrad was a director on the Warner Brothers lot in the early 60s. So she described it to me, and I thought to myself, this could be the Maltese Falcon, but figured the odds would probably be 1 in 100 million. The piece was sent to me in New York, and when the crate was opened, I actually went to the shipping department and stood there when they pulled the Falcon out. And they took all the bubble wrap and the shredded paper and et cetera around it. And when I looked at it, I realized that, in fact, it was the genuine Maltese Falcon.
Why the late Jack Warner had given it to his friend Conrad may never be known, but there was no doubt it was genuine.
It was the correct prop number stamped underneath the bird. It had the slashes in the shoulder, in the front of the head. It was the perfect bronze color.
The scratch marks, for example, on the breast of the bird, because as you recall, Sidney Greenstreet sort of scratches at the bird in his frenzy to peel the crust away and get to the underneath part. And so, of course, on the prop there are similar scratch marks.
News of the impending sale of this legendary icon spread like wildfire, attracting potential buyers from around the world, and all but ensuring that it would go for more than the pre-sale estimate of $30,000 to $50,000.
We finally had to call people back and say, if you're not prepared to go over 6 figures, we can't even have you on the telephone. The podium was active, the room was packed. I was not on the phone, I was standing there watching, and the bidding started, $30,000. Kept going, kept going, kept going. The room, this person was bidding to $250, and I'm standing there saying, okay, well, there goes my idea of $2 to $225.
At $340,000.
And all of a sudden, I notice a man standing to my left in the back of the auction room, sort of behind a pole, with a hat and glasses and a newspaper covering his face, and he has a paddle in his hand.
$360,000. Any more? Selling them at $360,000.
Including commission, the total price came to $398,500.
As soon as the hammer went down, he dropped his paddle on the floor and turned and walked out of the room. And all of my associates, and most importantly the credit manager, turned around and looked at me and said, and the PR person, "Who is that?" I said, "I have no idea."
The mystery buyer was determined to remain mysterious, for as prominently as he showcases his jewels, Ronald Winston of the famed Harry Winston Jewelers refuses the public eye and the camera lens. At the press conference following the sale, a Humphrey Bogart look-alike showed off Winston's new treasure in his stead.
Well, I've always been a great fan of Humphrey Bogart, and I've always loved the movie because it deals with the intrigue and romance and search of something precious. And in fact, that's what I do every day in my daily life, is to try and find precious things, usually stones.
A year after paying almost $400,000 for the Falcon, Winston stated he sold the bird for a substantial profit. He refused to confirm or deny the price tag, nor disclose the buyer's name. The rumors quickly flew.
Several months ago, I heard that it had been sold for $1 million in Europe.
Once more, the bird was cloaked in mystery, and the treasure quotient heightened when Winston announced plans to create his own version of the mythical Falcon. In his jewelry workshop high above Fifth Avenue, the Harry Winston Falcon, made from a mold of the original bird, gets its finishing touches. Clothed in 4.5 pounds of 18-karat gold, it sees the world through Burmese ruby eyes.
I wanted to bring the legend alive and finish the story that was never finished in the movie.
The bird has an almost 43-karat diamond and a selling price of $8.5 million. But it is still not the stuff dreams are made of, as Sam Spade said. In Dr. Milin's eyes, that makes his lead bird worth much more.
Would I ever consider selling the Maltese Falcon? No, it probably is worth what it is, $1 million. But what would I do with the money? I'd go out and buy something else anyway, and I couldn't part with it. It's sort of a part of me.
Perhaps to own the Falcon is to own your dreams, to live the legend of Bogey, to fall for a woman like Mary Astor, to do battle with the Fat Man, and to search for fabled riches.
I think in this case, life has definitely imitated art, because if you know the cast of characters, or the collectors, let's just say, who have been chasing this around the globe, it very much mirrors the film. Bogart is this smooth, stealth, sort of master manipulator, and I think a lot of men in this role really identify with him.
Dr. Milin often goes to the museum to visit his Falcon.
I come by and visit him and talk to him. You know, he does talk. And he will probably say, I am the stuff that dreams are made of.
All these props are the stuff that dreams are made of. Films are the stories of the stuff that dreams are made of, and dreams play an important part of our life.
And so, as long as men covet, desire, and dream, they will also seek out elusive treasures like the Maltese Falcon.